Welcome to the Shaman Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me today is a friend and another fire shaman, Nikola. Nikola combines both the Peruvian shamanic techniques with science. Welcome, Nikola, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for inviting me to a podcast. So, what's up? What are we going to be talking about today?
Right, so, with this podcast, the main story is people's journeys. So, your journey and how you became into spirit. What led you down your path to eventually start working with spirit? In your case, the shamanic techniques. For somebody else, it might be something different like Reiki or QHHT but everybody has their own story. And so that's what I really want to focus on with this podcast. So I guess the first question I want to ask is, what is your life like now and what type of practice do you do? You don't have to go into like full detail of everything, but just your basic practices and how you work with spirit.
Okey-doke, um, yeah, I do a lot of ceremony. I do a lot of fire ceremony. Uh, I personalize ritual, and then I love divining. I was connecting myself to this special card deck, Mystical Dream Shaman Oracle, for a whole year, and I was kind of waiting to use this card deck for around these 12, 13 months. I was feeding its spirit and my connect, on the altar, a little bit of altar. I got home, nothing special, but I love my altar. So when I started using this card deck, in the start, synchronicities, but slowly it kind of developed to even overlapping mystical experiences with what is happening around in the world or with some present time actualities in my life. So it's becoming more and more interested. I'm mostly working on divining right now, but as well, I read a lot, I study a lot, and I like to write a lot. I'm kind of like to stay creative, and to explore myself there in these depths. So that's about it. What
Okay.
I do now.
And so that's what you do today. So how was your childhood like? Did you grow up with these practices, around? Were your parents doing this? What was it like for young Nicola growing up?
Nice question, brother. Uh, I was growing up in a communist society, uh, old Yugoslavia, which now is called former Yugoslavia, divided into some republics after the civil war. My childhood was very positive, protected, and good. So little did I know that I had this very good and protected childhood. Both parents were working for the state. So I had a good, great childhood. I was very much outside cycling. Summertime, I was going down to the beach, bathing. Just like being careless, like a child should be. Having good time, great time. Spirituality in childhood. You can imagine, Jeremy, living in a communist society where religion was suppressed and where people that sought connection to religion or spirituality, they were just plain and all said they were looked down at, if not even, you know, sometimes put in jail, if they propagated too much. So communist system was very strict on this, and a lot of the stuff was hidden from the protected ones. And obviously, I was protected as a child. Spirituality, child-wise, my mother was very spiritual, and she was one of these ladies, that was born into a Christian family, and she had very deep connect to the spirit, my mother, and she also was divining a little bit sometimes with her friends after a cup of coffee. They used to drink Turkish coffee there, and sometimes after the coffee cup was finished, they used to turn it around, wait till it dries out, and then look at the bottom and look for signs, divine, maybe you got a question or something. So I grew up kind of a little bit, with the stuff I'm working on now or liking. So my mother, in a way, was a great influence in the childhood. As well, I could I could notice on my mom that she was careful how she was talking about spirituality to me and about God, because it was something, individuals needed to hide. And how so? So I was a very sensitive child as well. I remember that there was a period where I had to adopt to school in kind of a difficult way for a child. I think it was, I had some difficulties being separated from the home and being alone, for 7, 8 hours in the kindergarten or the school. So it took some time, but I got there. That said, as well, I started my education already as 6 years old, first grade elementary school, because obviously I was at some kind of IQ test as a 5-year-old, and then they decided, well, this boy is clever enough to start at school if you want him to. So I went to school early, and kind of on the way to fast forward a little bit in puberty. Uh, I fell in love with music, with computer, with technology, and one thing led to another, and then I began working as a DJ locally. I began to like duplicate software and very much technology, in this wave in the ending of the 80s. So puberty, my spirituality was not so visible, but it was in me. And one more important thing, in childhood, several experiences which you can call uh, more than mystical, like out of body experiences and astral travel. Uh, even I dare say now, even a feeling of seeing dead people, uh, and seeing ghosts, apparitions, and uh, lots of experiences in that way, which a child, don't understand, and in a way still carries in the adulthood, but at that time wouldn't understand, and still was kind of fearing. And these things are not as like so transmittable to communicate with other people about, because one worries, how will I be looked at, and how will I be, now judged by the people or some of the people that one loves also, So, so further along the way, this is not childhood so much, but after puberty, life changed dramatically from safety and security. I was thrown into the civil war, and since more or less I was living until the last 4 years in survival mode. But at the same time, uh, also creating and developing myself, even though one could call me, a sleeper. I was not awakened in that period, functioning just plain survival, double, triple time work, family, toxic behavior, So that was another ball game from the first part of my life, where it was protected and beautiful, and then life throws you out in another pendulum cast, So that's about it. So.
Okay. And so, what led you down the path then to shamanism? For you, that's what you do now. So, what led you down that path?
Wow, man, great question again.
And there might not
Well,
be.
listen. I think that one or another way. Let me start this way. What I noticed when I got into spirituality for a number of years ago. That my feeling was that most of the people that try to connect with the spiritual realm or spiritual uh, community, so to say, they are seeking some kind of also, besides wanting to do their inner work, they're seeking some kind of intimate connection to other people that think the same way, or might help them understand something better. So spiritual intimacy with oneself and with others, I believe, is the great entry point of the path, for lots of us. And maybe this was the same for me, but my whole acceleration in development and coming to become a shaman, and interest myself for science and such, it became firstly with like curious exploration of esoterics or maybe some kind of forbidden topics, not forbidden topics, maybe not good to say, but topics which are not our usual news agendas, like aliens or like old civilizations which we never heard truly enough about, which could form our state of being and state of mind, in the present and for the future. So this was the entry point, and the big shift came when I began to study for the four winds as a fire shaman, and this education really opened my eyes. It was served in a way that it even stimulated even more for me to seek more wisdom connected to this, area of spirituality. Spiritual realm is quite large, and maybe also important to mention that the more one comes to understand and attains in this realm, in spiritual realm, the more kind of is needed to get to know and to learn. So wisdom, in a way, begins to chase one, when you enter this spiritual realm. So I don't know. I hope it gives sense, Jeremy. But I just shared with you. So.
Oh yeah, and I guess while you were on that journey, I mean, we're still on that journey, but
Yeah.
how are you dealing with, the doubt and the fear that may have came along that way, the dark night of the souls? Was there any moment like
Wow.
that where you weren't sure if
Wow.
you were going to keep going?
Wow. That's a great question, man. We got some great questions today. Dark Night of the Soul, this is a new concept to me, Of course, I heard about Dark Night of the Soul, but asking me partially about that, I believe that the Dark Night of the Soul can be experienced multiple times. And I believe that the dark night could be lasting more than just one night, and even ourselves, when as we spiritually evolve, we are never, let me speak for myself, one is never in a straight development line. But the more steady the spiritual evolution of the personality becomes, the lesser are the amplitudes when one journeys forth, towards these interests in the spiritual realm, which are relevant for you, and for kind of forming your own tool set and channel of spirit set, to be ready to deliver in service of others, or Mother Nature, firstly. So Dark Night of the Soul, I believe it's a personal concept, and I don't know if it's far out to say, man, that it could happen multiple times, Dark Night of the Soul, or this night could be even lasting more than one night. So.
And so you mentioned earlier when we started, you talked about doing fire ceremonies and certain rituals. Is there any other practices that have been extremely valuable to you?
Well, I would say, something I do daily for the last 3 months, and I did it weekly for the last small year's time. It's pranayama yoga. It's yogic breath combined with the something they call sutras, For an example, you can stay in this position and then you'll be breathing through your nose intensely, like for a couple of minutes. And it gets really challenging after a minute or two because the subconscious mind, the ego is trying to talk you into, giving up, and you need to challenge yourself to come over these limits. And again, these are the bardos of the present conscious human mind, and looking at this beautiful practice. Sometimes I was surprised, they had sometimes in the practice like very huge bodybuilders, brother, and they couldn't hold their hands for 2 minutes like this, and with the other guys, which are quite like ordinary built, and you could even call them thinnish, in the physical form, and it takes really a combination of the body and mind and the spirit to get there, and repetition. And what's the best thing about it, that after all the tools that I have been through, and digging into science to understand my mind, to understand my body better, and to be able also to explain to others what's going on with they, Pranayama was like the cream on the cake, really, or even, so to say, the cherry on the top of the cake, and the autonomous nervous system got stabilized, and now I cannot live my life without pranayama, yogic breath, and this routine, you can only get better to that. It's also something like the soul and the body and the mind loves, and it can be a part of one's life, as long as one lives in this body. So that was my last super tool, pranayama.
Nice. And so my next question goes towards, the overall journey itself. We always hear stories from others about how they started down this spiritual path and they started having issues with their family members or other relationships with their friends or even within their community. Because maybe
Mm-hmm.
now some people might say, when you go down the spiritual path, your frequency vibrates higher than others, and so now people see you differently. Like will attract light, so other people will come in, you'll lose other people in your life. Within your own journey, how has your own journey affected your relationships with family, friends?
Well. You're drawing better question after better question, Jeremy. Nice question and relevant question to this talk we got. Uh, yes, of course, it has affected my journey. I'm mostly in solitude, brother, and let's be completely honest to the bone here. The relation to my family members has gotten to be more distant. I got almost no relation, if very, very little, to my, let's call them former friends or somebody that I knew, in my previous life, because it's not easy resonating together anymore. And for me personally, when I meet someone from my past, I even feel it in my body, not in my field only, but in my body. Their vibration mode gets me to move on to my sacred space as quick as possible, as soon as possible, because I am not getting an energetic exchange which is valuable to me, not even, no speech are necessary, just but if speech is involved, if vibration become involved, then it can become a bit um, too much for me, and I tend to retreat to my sacred space and just study. And but the good thing about this state is, that you kind of you got this love for yourself, and just being in touch with that feeling, this happiness. I just call it happiness, and creating something on top, So you feel connected to all the people that you truly love. So my children, I miss them and I love them, and I got two beautiful grandchildren now, and one of them I saw. Um, so little Atlas is his name. My other grandson is Luca. So I love them, and I would love to be much more with my kids and my grandkids, but time is now as is, and I don't feel separate, because my love is large enough to include them in my world now, and they are part of this self-love also for me, a beautiful feeling which I didn't feel in the first 45 years of my adult life, and which I enjoy feeling now. And like this is the greatest gift you can get on your spiritual journey for anyone, for anyone. This feeling of being enough within yourself and the great good happy memories that you got and living in the moment. So, yeah,
It's beautiful.
that's about it.
So just to follow up on that, but I mean, I'm sure there's some regrets, but it doesn't sound like they're too deeply ingrained. Like you're still trying. There's no animosity, or I'm trying to find the right word myself. There's no, I guess, anger to the path that you're taking now. Doesn't sound like it, but
Oh, I guess there's no anger towards me from my nearest, but there could be some animosity and some uh, like like non-understandability uh, attitudes, with the public, which I used to be a part of before, in something I call my previous self, my previous life, and that's what we all got when we get this spiritual rebirth. Uh, no, I don't feel this animosity, but it can be challenging and it can be difficult in the start, but everything kind of levels out when you stabilize your spiritual path, when you begin feeling these mystical experiences. And this is a notch above these synchronicities people talk about, when they see a when they see an hour which is 11, 11 or 12, 12, and wow, beautiful stuff. It is beautiful stuff, but there is something above that. There is even something above the mystical experiences, So I don't feel separate. So if there was any animosity, and if there is any animosity in the present, I feel protected in my sacred space, and I feel protected through my connection with the spirit, and for me, this is the greatest reward of this path. There's nothing money can pay, nothing you can set a price tag on. And I'm really in the start, maybe this important to mention, when I began to feel me channeling spirit, I was so happy, and I was also fearing that I was able to lose this connection if I did something wrong or in the wrong way. So I was very cautious, very cautious of my thoughts, very cautious of my deeds, and everything became more like focused on keeping up this channeling spirit connection, and it never happened, I never lost my connection, but I'm still very, to be this, let's just say it in a plain and simple way, a good person, and balanced person, not to lose my loving connection to the spirit, because this joy and happiness, or we can call it, essence, life force, where you simply become happy for your breath, happy for your heartbeat, and in a way, as they say, you function from your heart space more than from your mind space.
so I want to change up the topic just a little bit. What is the most beautiful or even surprising thing about your journey you found either for yourself and you want others to understand?
Mm. Well, this is maybe not maybe this is connected to the last question and the part of my answer with your last question. it is very valuable and it is very attainable for anyone, everyone, if they, with discipline, and with repetition, practice this, connect to the spirit in one or another way, through an entry point which is most suitable for them personally. It can be from whatever spiritual practice or mixture of spiritual practices made up into a personal experience to work on attaining this connect to the spirit, to dig deep within, especially for the male parts. For myself, this was one big one big deep dig within myself to dig out the feminine richness, because as men we got this femininity as well, and but it just needs to be worked deeper on to dig to the surface, because they taught us in these masculine dominated societies to be as we are, and a big part of of what we were taught, in our life, to be ashamed or something, which we fought off now. But yes, back on the topic there, which we were asked not to fly off in something else, brother. Uh, the most valuable thing is attaining the link to that happiness, which you can call spirit, and that comes through inner work and creative expression.
Hmm. Let's let's go back a minute though. What you were talking about with bringing out the divine feminine within the masculine. So as a male too, obviously, and we're going to have other listeners who are male who might not know how to proceed in that way to find that balance within themselves. What suggestions would you bring to those folks? And I guess you could even say it goes both ways because there's obviously the masculine and the feminine in everyone. But women have it, men have it. So how would you suggest to people to find that balance?
Well, you see, the way I found it uh, is digging through to my inner child, trying to become in contact firmly with my inner child, and this inner child in a way showed me, guided me there too. And how do we come in contact with the inner child? Yes, we need to gain some insights first, on how our brain works and how our chemistry in the bodies work. And this gives a kind of like a gliding uh, entry point, into our inner realm, into our inner kingdom, to understand this better. And through creative expression again, just do something creative with your fingers, with your hands, or with your mind down on a piece of paper, and feel happy about that, and this is this inner child, and in a way, this inner child is how the creator wanted us to be all the time. And this is why this joyous chemistry as children have all the time, if we adults are not oppressing them, if they're just free to be happy in themselves, so yes, inner child, that's kind of like maybe even key to coming firmly in contact with the creator,
Mhm.
and expressing the creator through creation, personal creative expression.
I like that. That makes sense. And obviously, everyone's going to find their own little unique way of doing it, but I like that. And so, what, as you continue along this path, so what do you hope to learn next, or explore, or even experience? What's the next steps for Nikola?
Oh, great question again, Jeremy. All of your questions are great. Thank you for that. Well, the mystery that I don't know what is next, and I know it will be beautiful, is keeping me, like positive and running and happy. And of course, I can skim with my with my senses, but I also allow it to be a mystery, in a way, because it keeps me in this uh, let's call it half childish state, which is a creative state and a happy state, and I don't need to know everything. I I can I can move both in certainty and uncertainty, and this keeps it beautiful for me, and this keeps it, yeah, it keeps it an open road, so to say.
And so, what do you think, or how would you define, you know, what does spiritual fulfillment look or feel to you right now? Because just looking at you talk
Mm.
about it, I just see pure joy. So I think it's definitely on the list.
But joy is a station, let's say a great station, and it becomes a part of your vehicle as you move along. But something more is coming, and I believe that everybody in our circle, so to say, which is spiritually awakening or awakened, ascending to different levels of understanding of spirituality, I think we all feel that we need to give something to the public from this gift that we receive, this blessing. So I believe that this is the way for the most of us, and we all do it in our own ways. Somebody does it through helping individuals heal themselves, their bodies, their soul fragments, whatever now, in energetic work. Somebody has some other greater image or picture. How can I affect this positive stream, this stream of love and change to something better. So, but at the end, it's sharing this with the public. So that's kind of for me, for now, this vision, I can see the level higher than the ordinary level, being engaged into sharing this spiritual awareness and an opportunity to be awakened to this world with others, with the public.
And with that sharing to the public, if what advice would you offer to someone who's just now starting their own journey? Or maybe they've been going on it for a couple years now, but they still don't feel complete. I don't think
Well, that's
personally you'll ever feel complete, but
okay. But advice: be mindful, trust yourself, uh, practice pure intentionality, practice thoughts which are neutral, practice a neutral mind. Neutrality is obviously key to staying most balanced in unpredictability of this road we are on. So trust yourself, and when you feel that you need to surrender to something uncertain, surrender, let go, and feel the universe come and meet you and greet you and help you. It's my advice.
so, but looking back on your own journey, do you feel that, or can you notice now certain parts back in your past where spirit was leading you, and either maybe you didn't fully want to answer it, or you woke up to it? Like, was there a key moment for you when you realized, oh, this is what I'm doing? Because you mentioned, I found the four winds and I started my training. But what was that key moment of like, what clicked in your head that led you to go, nope, that's what I'm doing, versus any other modality you could have chosen?
Well, um, let me say, I felt entanglement at the time point, entanglement with one certain very highly spiritual person, which I don't even personally know, but I simply felt entangled through researching and adopting the wisdom from this certain person, you know. And this entanglement, this feeling of that through this wisdom of this person, you know, I was being connected to this person as well, you know, even though this person was 7,000 kilometers away from me. So it got me to be more curious, you know, and how could I feel this way? And it felt so real to me. So this was like the key point. And this was around 3.5, 4 years ago.
Mhm.
But of course, one felt, you know, through the growth, you know, in the young age and everything, that there's something greater than Kunda flesh, you know, Jeremy. But I believe this was the key point for me, feeling this deep entanglement with a living person, which I don't know, through the wisdom that I attain from this person.
Okay. So it's pretty much where I want to end today, but I do want to ask if there is anything else about your spiritual journey that you feel is important to share, or if there's anything else you wanted to share with the people listening.
Hmm. Well, I shared, you know, most of it, you know, on my personal ways, but let me to encourage someone that might be listening to this podcast, your broadcasting that you invited me to, Jeremy. I'm grateful for. So I'm going to read to you something at the end here, guys, and it's from a writer or an author called C.S. Lewis. So he says, God's miracles are hidden in your darkest moments. When a miracle occurs, nature embraces this new situation and adapts all other events accordingly. This means that far from making miracles impossible, the laws of nature ensure if the supernatural is at work, miracles must happen, maintaining the harmony of the systematic nature of the universe. A blessing for you, Jeremy.
Thank you. And is there anywhere you want to send people if they wanted to reach out to you? I know you're managing a Facebook page. I don't know if you want to talk about that or.
Well, not necessary at this time point, you know, but if people are looking for some free, fresh knowledge, both from ancient times and some creative mixtures of ancient wisdom and modern science, so come and visit the Beauty Way and Shamanic Wisdom, the Facebook group I've created. And there you can gain a lot of more knowledge, support, and insight on how to help yourself and how you can help others once you have helped yourself.
Perfect. All right. I want to thank you again, Nikola, for joining me today, and I really do appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure, man. Always. Thank you.
Thank you.